I am Director of Transportation Policy at 1000 Friends of Wisconsin. And I am joined by Denise Jess, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Council of the Blind and Visually Impaired, and Marina Minik, a volunteer at the Wisconsin Public Interest Research Group and a UW-Madison student. We also have some members of the Sierra Club joining us today. And we are here because our groups, along with Sierra Club and others around the state, are releasing a first-of-its-kind report called Arrive Together: Transportation Access and Equity in Wisconsin. The report provides a profile of 9 cities in Wisconsin that have public transit systems, the challenges that are faced by users of these systems, and we offer solutions on how we can do better for transportation in the state of Wisconsin. So I'm just going to go through a few of the key findings from the report. First is public transportation plays a major role in connecting Wisconsinites to jobs and opportunities. Thousands of our state citizens rely on public transportation to earn an income, access school, healthcare, grocery stores, community, and leisure. However, the report finds that we are failing to invest in public transportation adequately. The state spends less on transit as a dollar amount today than we did 10 years ago. Transit agencies across the state have been forced to cut routes, reduce frequency, and increase fares in this time period. So in the city of Madison, while our bus service does do a good job of connecting Madison residents, the bus system is stretched to capacity. The existing bus garage does not have room to accommodate even a single more vehicle. Bus services to communities of color are less frequent and take longer to complete. Bus transfers are often cumbersome, and people often have to wait for a long time in Madison's extreme weather to complete a journey. Trips that often only take 10 to 15 minutes by car can take up to an hour and a half by bus. Finally, there is often no way to access other population centers by bus from Madison. For example, no service exists to one of Dane County's fastest growing cities, Sun Prairie. A cab ride there from downtown Madison costs about $60, which often is more than a day's pay for many people who use the bus. So I'm now going to turn it over to Denise to share some of her experiences with the transportation system in Madison.
Thanks, Ash. Good morning. I'm Denise Jess. I am one of 100,000 plus people in the state of Wisconsin who has a significant life-shaping visual impairment. I've been visually impaired, legally blind since birth. I'm also the CEO, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Council of the Blind and Visually Impaired, and our work, our #1 legislative priority for many, many years has been transportation, because we know it is the linkage between quality of life and sustainability for people with disabilities around the state. There are about 670,000 people with disabilities in the state of Wisconsin. Most of us are transportation dependent, either because our disability makes it so, or we live in poverty and can't afford a car. So that's a significant number of people who every single day want to get to work, need to get to the grocery store, want to see friends, want to see family, need to make medical appointments and other legal and business appointments. In my own experience as a transit rider, I've been a pedestrian commuter and a transit rider my whole life. Driving was never an option, maybe a golf cart every once in a while, but that's even risky. It's always been, I've always been a pedestrian or bus user. And getting from place to place, while there's the wonderful advantage of getting to meet diverse populations and striking up what I call bus friendships, the toll is huge. So I might get on the bus for what Ash mentioned is a 10 to 15 minute car ride, take an hour and a half to get to my destination, whether it's work related or medical or any other business, and maybe have a 20-minute medical appointment, then turn around, get back on that bus and do the hour and a half back home again, or leave my home extra early to get to the work commitment on time, get home extra late after achieving the work commitment. That takes a toll on having extra energy, extra time to raise a family, to be home when your kids get home from school, to welcome them with a snack and a hug. It increases the time that they spend in childcare, which increases cost to families. It decreases the amount of time to cook a good, healthy meal, and we see issues of obesity and poor health in the disability population because sometimes of living in places where there's food deserts and we're unable to get good food on the table. It decreases the amount of time we can spend with family and friends, and it decreases the amount of time we can volunteer and give in our communities because we're busy riding the bus or walking to the next bus stop or waiting at the bus stop. In the state of Wisconsin, about 59% of people have experienced either difficulty obtaining a job or difficulty in keeping a job due to lack of transportation. And that stat comes from the Survival Coalition of Wisconsin disability groups and a survey that they did this summer among people with disabilities. 59%. So what we see routinely is that someone might get a job and they're thrilled to have that job. If you're a person with a disability, paying your yearly taxes is a gift, not a hardship, because we're so happy to be able to work. But after maybe 3 months or so of maybe having some supported transportation with that job, as that transportation fades out, then absenteeism starts to happen. Maybe the ride to work, the family member who said they would take you that day is sick and can't do it, or you have a disagreement with your friend, and we see folks needing to leave jobs 3 to 6 months after they've obtained that job. So transportation within the city of Madison, between communities, across the state is vital for quality of life for all citizens, and particularly for people with disabilities. Collaborative efforts that we see between business and government for creating transportation systems that thrive, and inter-community transportation systems. We've got models of them in the state. Beautiful model up in Ashland, Bayfield County, another beautiful model in Trumpelow and La Crosse counties. We need to look to those models for their wisdom and models outside of Wisconsin and figure out collaboratively how we create an equitable transportation system. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Denise. I will now turn it over to Marina Minnick to give us her perspective from a student.
Good morning. My name is Marina Minnick, and I'm a sophomore at UW-Madison. I'm double majoring in chemistry and environmental studies, and today I'm volunteering with WISPIRG, the Wisconsin Public Interest Research Group. This year I am living in an apartment downtown, right off of State Street, and I use either my bike or the bus almost every day. I have a very busy schedule, so I like biking to class because it saves a lot of time, and it can even count as my daily workout. I discovered the Southwest Commuter Path this year, and it is probably my favorite way to get from one side of campus to the other. If I want to go a bit further, I will take the bus. The buses in Madison are super convenient, and I have a transit app that helps me figure out the best bus and route to take. I prefer busing places over Ubering because it's the most affordable way to get around. Why would I pay for something more expensive when I don't need to? One thing I would never do is have a car on campus. It seems like a traffic and parking nightmare, and I think that this campus is actually built more for walkers and bikers anyways. Living in Madison has really influenced my perspective on public transit in general. I grew up in Hudson, Wisconsin, which is a smaller town right across the border from Minneapolis. There was no public transit available in Hudson, and there weren't many bike lanes or paths either. If you wanted to have a job, you needed a car. I didn't really notice that dependency on cars until I came home for the summer after freshman year and realized that I had been driving to a grocery store that is 3 blocks from my house instead of just walking or biking. Although the grocery store was an easy fix, most other things are not in walking or biking distance. It made me appreciate all of the options I have here in Madison. The thing I learned from all of this is if public transit is available to people, they will take advantage of it. I actually had a friend visit me this past weekend from UW La Crosse, and she kept bringing up how much easier it is to get around in Madison than it is in La Crosse. She's even considered transferring so that she can start taking advantage of more public transit options. And I also had a similar thought the other day while riding the bus home from my internship. I realized how cool it would be to have the option to commute to my future job. Living somewhere with good public transit will be a key factor in deciding where I live after graduation. Not only is it convenient and affordable, but using transit or walking or biking is also one of the easiest ways to reduce your carbon footprint and combat climate change. I've been feeling good about my lowered carbon footprint and would like to keep it that way in the future. I'm sure many things about Madison's transportation system could be improved, but in my experience, there is no better way to get around the city. The bus system is easy and affordable, and biking is usually one of the highlights of my day. I'm always telling my friends about the views I get to see or about the new paths that I discovered. I would love to see more communities around the state start thinking about public transportation the way that Madison does.
Thank you so much, Marina. That was a great statement. So I just want to conclude by highlighting a few solutions to the problem. First, we need to get our transportation priorities straight. Over the past 10 years, we have spent billions of dollars on new highway expansions that have had serious negative consequences, such as increased pollution, carbon emissions, and worsening car crashes. We need to stop investing in those kinds of backward investments and instead reprioritize spending to focus more on public transportation, walking, and biking. We need to increase spending on public transportations to the levels recommended by the bipartisan report called Keep Wisconsin Moving that was compiled by the Transportation Policy and Finance Commission, authorized by Governor Walker. Madison and other areas in the state had plans for a regional transportation system that was scuttled by the state legislature. This needs to be overturned. Finally, the city of Madison needs to prioritize transit more. This includes investing in things like transit signal priority so that buses are not stuck in traffic along with cars. Investing more city funds into public transportation and seeing Madison Metro as a valuable city entity and not a department that needs to be subsidized is also important. Finally, we need to ensure that economic and racial disparities are being addressed both at the state and at the city level. It's time that we build a transportation system that is 21st century, connects people to jobs and opportunities, and works for every single citizen of Wisconsin. Thank you. We're happy to take any questions.
How does Madison compare to like the 9 or the 8 other cities in the state?
So Madison actually does pretty well. It's a tier 1 system, which means that it gets more state funding from the segregated transportation fund. Madison does a good job connecting places downtown, connecting most employers. However, there still exist a lot more areas where we can do a lot better, specifically around the long travel times that people of color often face in the city. And second, transfers take a long time as well. And then buses don't run with increased frequency on weekends and at nights, which doesn't really help people who work the night shift or don't work a traditional 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. Could you say something about this map?
Sure, yeah. So this is a map that is...
Ash, can you use the mic?
Yeah. So,
Thank you for that. This is a map that shows access to Madison's largest employers by public transportation. So these, the 23 employers listed on the left have 1,000 employees or more each. And the blue lines on the map show you the routes that Madison Metro currently operates. And then the different colors on the map correlate to income level. So the red color shows poorest areas of Madison that have household incomes between $8,500 to $35,000, and it ranges up to the darkest green, which are the richest areas of $100,000 to $180,000. And so what this map shows is that while poorer areas in Madison do have some transit connectivity, there's a lot more places where we don't have adequate number of bus routes, we don't have an adequate number of bus stops, and some employers, for example, 22, the Walgreens Distribution Center, that's way up on the north here, or number 13, QB Insurance, there's no transit connectivity to at all. And then the map also does not show frequency. While there may exist a connection to a job, it might only happen once every hour or so. And so if you do miss your bus, you're at risk for being late, and then you're at risk for being fired sometimes as well, just because of a lack of options.
doesn't show which routes are commuter only and which are all day, everyday routes.
That's right, it doesn't show that as well. But this is again a snapshot of what the transportation system in Madison looks like. There's more information on both on our website and the Sierra Club's website, and the report itself goes into fairly good detail on some of the specific issues that riders of the Madison system have found.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, if there are no more questions, we can wrap it up here. Thank you for those who came out today. We really appreciate your support. And thank you for coming up to the Cap Times as well.